negative 47 degrees after the wind chill. So I was in Champaign, and I remember, I think it was negative 20 something, and then the wind was howling and the snow was coming down, and I wanted to get my stuff out of the car before it froze. It was after our nightly planning, so it's dark. So I made my companion videotape me running through the snow, and I've never been so cold. It was freezing that day. So that, and then a tornado. We had a tornado come down the road about a mile north of where we lived. I didn't see any of it. We heard on the news the next day, members are telling us, like, yeah, there's a tornado here. And we drove up there and trees were down. We sat on our back porch waiting for the tornado, and it was dark and we didn't see a thing. So I never saw a tornado, but they happened around me. Ticks. Ticks and chiggers. Especially in the more wooded areas. A lot of bugs and cicadas, depending on the year. Sometimes they'll be on a doorstep and the cicada hum will just start coming, and you don't realize it till suddenly you realize you can't hear the person you're talking to because just this sound of cicadas in the trees. They're these little bugs about yay big that come out of the ground every year, and they're loud. Not many animals that we ever saw. I mean, we're in the cities, we're not out camping or anything like that, but a lot of bugs, cockroaches too. Barbecue, number one. Like burn ends, brisket, ribs. I love it all. I'll eat barbecue every day of the week if I could. We had a pizza joint in St. Louis called Pointersaurus. Huge pizza. If you and another person can eat that pizza with 3 meat toppings and 2 liters of pop or beer, if you're not a missionary, I guess, you can get $500 plus the price of your pizza back if you eat that entire thing in an hour. So we had a member buy us that pizza once. We didn't finish it. Gooey butter cake is a dessert that they have. If you want high cholesterol and you want to feel terrible about yourself afterward, eat gooey butter cake, but it's spectacular while you're eating it. Toasted ravioli, it's another thing they have. Muscaccioli, which as far as I can gather is basically spaghetti and meat sauce with different pasta noodles, but we got fed that a lot. It was great. I think that's about it. Their pizza's a little bit different down there. They cut it in squares. At least any of the St. Louis joints, they don't cut their pizza in triangles like everyone else. They cut it straight across and straight across the other way, kind of like a grid. And so you eat the outside first, and there's your crust, and in the end you're just kind of holding onto the pizza. But it works, and it tastes good. We had a paleteria, like a little popsicle stand. It was a little store that, you walk in there and everyone's from Mexico or somewhere like that. But when we were Spanish elders, that was our favorite place to go, is get homemade strawberries and cream with real strawberries in it, popsicles, and kind of talk to the people there. That was my favorite dessert. That and frozen custard. They've got Ted Drew's famous custard downtown St. Louis, and it's always busy, but it's super good. Mission taught me a lot of responsibility and a lot of hard work. As a missionary, you work every day. You can shower and eat breakfast, and then you're working from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. Then you're planning what work you're going to do the next day. So it takes a lot of fortitude, but I think that's something that's carried me through after the mission, is the fortitude to work hard, to achieve your goals. The mission taught me a lot of that. My first 911 call was on my mission. We were in a rough part of town, and we knew it was a rough part of town, but I didn't realize how rough. We knocked on a door of a guy who said we could come back, and I get back in the car. The guy didn't answer, and we pull up to a stop sign, and this car runs the stop sign, skids around us, comes to a stop, and the guy jumps out with a shotgun. And let's just say I ran that stop sign. I floored it, got out of there. And I don't know whether he was, I'm pretty sure it wasn't at us, but he was screaming and he was angry and he had a gun. So we got out of there. We were safe, made a 911 call, told the police that there was an issue down there they should probably check out. But no, I never felt that unsafe. Crazy things happened, crazy coincidences, I guess you could call them, but we all know they're not. People that we met at grocery stores who we thought we'd never see again. People who had been prepared by other missionaries or members that they'd met 20 years earlier. A lot of things like that, tracking into a member who'd been less active for decades. Him letting us in, teaching them, becoming really good friends with them coming to church, them being one of the strongest members in the church. Things like that are the coolest, crazy experiences. Getting guns pulled on you, It's good for the story. It's good for the email home to scare your mom if you really want to. I wouldn't recommend it. Wait till you get home for those stories. I did. The coolest crazy experiences are when you can see that God has prepared people for you to teach. The packing list, at least when I was called, says to bring 2 flat sheets. Don't bring a second flat sheet. Bring a fitted sheet. I brought a flat sheet like everyone else does, and then I spent every morning remaking the bottom of my bed and tucking it back under the mattress. So bring a fitted sheet. You'll thank me later. Other things to pack is the problem with our mission, I guess not a problem, but a unique thing about it is we get really cold in the winter. It's humid and cold. In the summer, it's humid and hot. So you're going to need short sleeve white shirts and you're going to need sweaters. Get some long underwear, keep you warm in the winter. I found if you have wool socks, pair of long underwear, cheap pair of slacks that you buy at Ross or somewhere like that, something that's polyester, something machine washable, you can walk through snow all day. You don't need snow pants. If you've got long underwear and you've got slacks on, just keep walking. Make sure you have a good coat. Make sure you have a good hat and gloves, something. Don't get mittens, make sure you have fingers. Makes it easier to pull your planner out. But be prepared for all types of weather because you're going to get it. We met some crazy people. A lot of people who claim they saw things, and one guy, I feel like I met more crazy people my first week in the mission than the entire rest of the time combined. I was tracked in with actually one of the Spanish elders. This is before I was in the Spanish era. We were on exchanges. And so I'm just kind of following because I didn't know Spanish. So I just kind of followed with him, and we meet this guy who called him Sarge. He comes up to us and he says, "My name's Sarge and I run this neighborhood. And I know you guys are the Mormons and I like you guys. So I'm a Vietnam vet, I'm tough, everyone knows me. I even got bullet wounds." And we laughed, we're like, "Yeah, that's awesome." He's like, "No, you don't believe me? I got him right here in my leg." And then he pulls down his pants and shows us the bullet wounds in his leg. But he's like, "Anyone ever messes with you, let me know, I'll give him a talking to because I'm in charge of this neighborhood." So crazy people, but it's great. It's just another story to tell. You're on foot, you're talking to people, and these are experiences that you'll tell your kids when you're done with your mission. In one of my areas, as I was getting through my time there, we didn't have a lot of success in this one of my areas. And I thought to myself, why am I here? We had several weeks of just zeros. No lessons, no investigators, nothing. And I wasn't getting along with my companion very well, and I was just wondering, why am I here? What is the point of me being called to this area? And, sometimes God has purposes that he shows us, and sometimes he has purposes that we may not know about. But I think the biggest reason I was in that area was for a less active member who had been baptized by missionaries a couple years earlier. But funny guy, super odd, but I love him to death. We started teaching him. The missionaries tracked it into him right before I got there, invited him to church, and he came to church and came to a ward activity. But then we started bringing him out to teach with us. Because I don't know if you know, but a rule for missionaries is when you teach a single woman, at least you have to have, if you're an elder, if you teach anyone of the opposite gender, you have to have someone of your gender, a member or a non-member with you. It's a rule in the White Handbook that you have. So we'd go to teach a lady, and we'd say, "Hey, we need a member, let's bring this guy with us." And so we spent a lot of time in the car looking at the GPS, trying to track people down, and got to know him really well. And he became a solid member of the ward. Anything the bishop asked him to do, he was there. Every building cleaning assignment, whether he's assigned to it or not, he shows up. Sometimes everyone else flakes out, and this guy's still there cleaning the building. And I look back at my time in that area, and I realized that maybe the reason I was there wasn't to baptize a ton of people or to activate a ton of people, but maybe it was just for him. And he's still active at church today. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I talk to him, and I know that being his friend and helping him make changes in his life, because he had to make a lot of changes in his life to become, keep the commandments and things like that. I think that was my purpose for being in that area, and it's cool to look back. We don't always understand what God has planned for us before we go somewhere, or even in the process. But when we look back, I think that's when I've seen the most that God has his hand in my life, and he has plans for people for me to help. I just wanted to share kind of about the importance of working with the ward. I had an investigator. I could probably share her name too. Her name's Virginia, and she's an older woman in her 60s. was actually confined to a wheelchair. And the missionaries tracked it into her before I got there. And the only reason she let the missionaries in is she had a friend who rode the bus with her every day to work. She worked at the University of Illinois at the time, and she talked to him about the gospel, had her over for dinner once, things like that. But she was prepared for the missionaries to come over. And when we came in, she was open to everything. She'd been an atheist before. She said, yeah, I don't believe in God. But we gave her a copy of the Book of Mormon. She started reading it. She started getting a testimony of that. And then we brought members over to teach her. Every time we taught her, we had a member with us. It's kind of one of those things, same the rule I talked about, where when you teach a single woman, you have to have another man with you. But we'd bring couples with us, wonderful couples from the ward, who'd say, Virginia, we love you. This is great. Come to church with us this Sunday. She came to church every week. She loved it. She loves her new ward family. I talk to her on the phone all the time. It's amazing the difference that taking someone into the ward as a family and sharing the gospel with them can have on an investigator. Because if she'd never met a member of the church, she probably wouldn't have let us in that one day. And she probably wouldn't be a member today. But because members reached out to her, she's a happy member of the church. She owns a Temple Recommend. It's fantastic. Small talk. You learn to relate to people. Sometimes if you can talk to someone, one of my things is cars. And so I'd start talking to someone about their car. And I'd be like, yeah, I've actually got this a pickup back home, but I'm actually not able to drive it because I'm here as a missionary. And then we transitioned to what we do as missionaries. So I learned how to talk to people and how to learn about them as well. Asking questions is key. We once taught, and in my ward, the other elders were teaching him, but he was an FBI agent. And he says, as missionaries, you've kind of got every skill that you need to be an FBI agent. You know how to meet someone and learn as much as you can about them in the first couple minutes of meeting them. But that was key, is if you can talk to someone and learn who they are, what motivates them, what's important to them, in the first few minutes of talking to them, then you can get to know them and then you can start teaching them based on their needs. And I think that skill of just talking to people, being outgoing, talking to the lady at the checkout line, is really something that's carried out after my mission as I try to be successful. I'm a business major. And so a lot of the skills I learned as a missionary, talking on the phone, leaving voice messages, they've transferred right over into a work life as well.